Good afternoon. Howdy. There we go. I'm Roger Guenther, and I'm the Executive Director for Port Houston. And I got to say, I'm thrilled for the opportunity to introduce our opening speaker for the conference today. And I can't think of a better way than to kick things off with our chairman of Port Houston, Janiece Longoria. Her accomplishments and recognitions and honors are many, and her bio is quite lengthy. And those things that she has done highlight her passion for service, touching many sectors across our community as well as the state of Texas. Now, I'm not going to read them, but they do include, she graduated from the University of Texas. She graduated from University of Texas Law School, and she sits on the UT Board of Regents. And I can even tell you, as a proud Aggie, I think you can say you've really reached the pinnacle of your career when you answer to someone with those credentials. But I'm not going to read her bio, but I can truly say, and I think you'll agree, the chairman really needs no introduction in this group. Instead, I'll share a couple of things about Janiece. She's been a commissioner since she was appointed in 2002. And she's been our chairman since she was unanimously appointed in 2013, and again in 2015, and again earlier this year. She serves selflessly for our port and commits a tremendous amount of time as our leader and an ambassador for our port industry. And because of her many years of service and her hard work for the advancement of our port, just last month she was named the Maritime Person of the Year by the Greater Houston Port Bureau, a very deserving honor for a person that has put in so much hard work for the last 15 years. Now I've gotten to know Janiece very well over the past few years in my tenure as executive director, and have learned and grown from her guidance and leadership of our organization. Her desire for success is intense, and I think I'm as qualified to know that as anybody. She is sometimes, I've always found she's willing to listen to what I have to say. She listens to what others have to say, and in return offers sound advice, because she always has an astute perception of the situation. So I thank her for that, and I usually take heed to her advice in making decisions. Except recently, for the last year, I've drawn the line on one thing. She keeps trying to talk my daughter and sending her to that school in Austin. And I put my foot down and refuse to listen. Chairman Longoria has been recently very active in the recovery effort for the port from Hurricane Harvey and the impacts that we've seen, communicating and coordinating those efforts with local elected officials and leaders of our community. And we were happy to hear that she was recently appointed to the Hurricane Harvey Advisory Board so that she can continue that effort and helping others and in a recovery effort that's going to be lasting for many, many weeks. So I'm extremely fortunate to work for a great organization, work for a great chairman, work for a great board of commissioners, and I'm honored and proud to introduce someone that's going to give you a great message today, our chairman, Janiece Longoria. Thank you.
Wow, Roger, thank you for that incredible introduction. I think that's the nicest introduction I think I've ever been privileged to hear. And you know, Roger is a terrific CEO for Port Houston, does a phenomenal job for us. He's a pleasure to work with, as is our entire staff. And I will say, no offense, Chad, but Roger is my favorite Aggie. Now, with that said, how many of you saw the UT-USC game from Saturday? Wasn't that great? The Longhorns are back. Hook 'em horns. So it is really my pleasure to be with you today at the, here at the 2017 Gulf Coast Industry Forum. We are the global hub for the chemicals industry, which I'm also very proud of. And I told Chad that I plan to be here come hell or high water. And in spite of both of those things having happened to all of us, I am here today. And I think that this is the premier economic event for our region every year because it brings together so many partners that are working together for a unified economy. So today, what I thought I would do would be to update you on the effects of Hurricane Harvey on our Houston Ship Channel and what we're doing to recover from that. But before I do that, let me just have a point of privilege to recognize my colleagues on the Port Commission. I'd like to recognize, and if you'd stand when I call your name because we're going to want to give you a hand, Commissioner Roy Meese from Pasadena, Commissioner John Kennedy, please rise, Commissioner Stephen Don Carlos. Let's give them a hand, please. They are my partners on the Port Commission, and without their leadership and their help, we wouldn't get done what we need to do. So thank you three very much for your efforts. I would also like to recognize two of my former colleagues that are here today, former Commissioners Jimmy Burke and Steve Phelps. Would you please stand up so we can give you a hand? It was also a great pleasure working with both of them. Now, we are all still reeling from both the physical and the psychological impacts of Hurricane Harvey. That storm imposed historic impacts on our community, and our hearts go out to all those that have been adversely impacted, including many people in this room. What was most striking to me was that immediately after the storm, so many members of industry, of the community, came together for mutual aid and comfort of our citizens who were so negatively impacted. In the last 3 weeks, many people in this room, our ship channel industry, have banded together to assure that this economic engine, this Houston Ship Channel, can get back to normal commerce as quickly as possible. Now, fortunately for us, our cargo facilities received minimal physical damage. We have a very strong preparedness plan. It worked very well. Of course, our first priority is to keep our people safe, and we didn't have any injuries or loss of life, very gratefully. Now, we worked really, really hard after the storm to try to get back open for commerce. And we opened again on Friday, September the 1st. And we did that because we had so many stakeholders and partners, both federal, state, and local, that came together to help us to get that done. We opened on September the 1st. We haven't slowed. We started servicing container ships that evening. And even though Labor Day is a very important holiday to the ILA, they proactively waived their right to that holiday, and they worked on Labor Day to work through the Labor Day weekend to assure that we were able to help our customers and to meet demand. So we're very, very happy to have their partnership and their great service. So even though the physical damage to us was minimal, the damage to the Houston Ship Channel is extreme, and that's what I'm here to talk with you about today. Now, a picture is worth 1,000 words. We've heard that many, many times. So I have a couple of satellite images that I want to share with you that really bring this into very stark relief. This first image is a view of the mouth of the Houston Ship Channel where the Galveston Bay system empties into the Gulf of Mexico. You can see from this slide northern Galveston Island and the Bolivar Peninsula in the center of the image. This photo was taken on August the 22nd, just days before Harvey slammed into the Texas coast. Next slide. This is a photo, same subject, from Thursday, August the 31st. It looks like a mud puddle, as you can see from that slide. Many of our region's rivers, bayous, and tributaries empty into the Houston Ship Channel, Galveston Bay, before flowing into the Gulf of Mexico. All of that floodwater coming through this system has deposited tons and tons and tons of silt into our system. So as you can see from this slide, these deposits have caused, as you can imagine, several areas of the channel to be shallower than their normal depth, which obviously will restrict normal commerce and the movement of ships through the channel. And not surprisingly, this third slide shows that this is continuing to accumulate. Silting continues as the floodwaters from the region as well as from across the state continue to make their journey into the bayous and tributaries that then flow into the Gulf. This photo is from September the 12th, and you can still see the massive amounts of silt material that's being deposited into the system. We are the local sponsor of the Houston Ship Channel, so we're working very closely with the Army Corps of Engineers to assess the damage to the channel, where the depth restrictions are, and to assure that we can work together to make sure that the dredges that are available to help us with the channel can be mobilized as quickly as possible to the most critical areas. With that said, we are in desperate need of additional relief to properly dredge our channel so that we can accommodate normal commerce through our channel at its authorized depth and width. To show you some of these impacts, I have some additional slides. I have some before and after images of the Bayport Container Terminal entrance. This is the entrance to our very productive Bayport Container Terminal right over here off of 225. The colors depict the various depths in the area, and the darker areas reflect the deeper water, so that you can see on the second slide that we've lost about 10 feet of depth at the Bayport Container Terminal entrance, which severely limits the ability of ships to come in at their normal capacity. And then the next slide, similarly, is the entrance to the Barber's Cut Container Terminal. Again, that facility has lost 10 foot of depth from silting. This seriously restricts commerce to and from this facility. It limits the ability of a ship to fully load its vessels to have a lower cost within the supply chain. And again, this slide is a slide of the turning basin, which ordinarily has a draft of 36 feet. With shoaling of nearly 5 feet, this restricts the ability of break bulk and general cargo at our turning basin facilities, including the import of steel. Now, the storm damage was not limited to the Houston Ship Channel. It also damaged the placement areas where we put dredge disposal material. And this is dredge disposal material that the Army Corps of Engineers and Port Houston need for the maintenance dredging of the channels, but also for private industry that needs to keep its terminals maintained for the efficient import and export of products. So there are other components of the system that support the channel that have also been impacted. We've had slope failures, movement of reinforced structures, spillway failures, and of course these placement sites are surrounded by earthen levees, many of which have been damaged or breached. So all of this ties together. In instances like these, where dredge placement sites are not available, dredging of the channel may be delayed, which further complicates our efforts and industry's efforts to assure safe and seamless navigation within our channel. So why am I showing you this? Because any impact to our Houston Ship Channel has ramifications not only to those of us gathered here, but obviously to the entire state of Texas and to our nation. So it's important that together we advocate a very strong message about the importance of our ship channel recovery and enhancement. Channel depth and width is critical to all of us. Without the full use of the channel, inefficiencies impose costs on the logistics system, businesses, and consumers. Now, this is critically important for us because we are still the busiest waterway in the United States of America. Each year, our channel supports 9,000 vessel calls, 22,000 ship movements, 200,000 barge movements, and of course, the largest petrochemical complex in the nation. We are essential to the nation's energy security and economic security. If you added the traffic of 3 major ports in the U.S., that being LA, Long Beach, and New York, New Jersey, that just equals the traffic in the Houston Ship Channel in any given year. The impact of the channel being shut down, even temporarily as it was after Harvey, highlights its importance to us, to the state, and to the nation. They included rising gasoline prices, jet fuel becoming critically low, and of course higher prices from the inability to get products into our region. But throughout this storm, the port coordination team under the leadership of the United States Coast Guard did a phenomenal job in bringing people together to mitigate the negative impacts. Our quick return to serving ship channel industry and Port Houston customers was made possible by a lot of different people, including our own Port Houston staff. I'm so grateful to all of you for coming together and working 24/7 on getting us back to work. And other stakeholders, including stevedores, the trucking community, ocean carriers, the Houston pilots, line handlers, vessel agents, and of course the port coordination team. We all work together 24/7 to make things happen and to try to get commerce back into the Houston Ship Channel. So on behalf of Port Houston, I thank you all for the efforts that you put forth to try to get us back to work. Now, we all know that the Houston Ship Channel is a tremendous asset to all of us, and it serves one of the state's greatest economic engines, that being the greater Port of Houston. Because of the industry in this room, we are the #1 port in the nation in foreign waterborne tonnage. We're the #1 U.S. port for petroleum and steel. And we're the fastest growing container port in the United States and the most important and productive port on the Gulf Coast for container trade. And as the host of the largest petrochemical complex in the nation, we supply, as you heard on the news, a significant percentage of the refined petrochemical products that drive this nation. We're essential to that energy supply. And so it's imperative that we try to get everybody back to normal as quickly as possible. We continue to grow because of tremendous investments that have been made in the last 5 years and that continue to be made in our region to produce goods that are designed for export and that are exported through our port. As you can see from some recent headlines on this slide, billions of dollars of capital investments are still being planned that will produce more exports and that will contribute to distribution facilities for the import of retail consumer goods. This highlights the confidence that we have in the success and capability of our port and our channel for the long term. We cannot allow the damage inflicted by Harvey to slow us down with this future opportunity. So, the continued activity of our port is crucial for our nation. The annual economic value generated by our port is $618 billion if you look at what we do nationally. Because we're the top exporting port in the U.S., and Texas is the top exporting state in the United States, we contribute $265 billion to the Texas economy, and we are 16% of the gross domestic product for Texas alone. We sustain nearly 3 million jobs nationwide and 1.2 million jobs in Texas. So we should all be very, very proud of the contribution that we make to the state and national economy. So we have to enhance and grow this asset for the benefit of our economic security, for our community, our state, and nation. Now, as part of Port Houston's stewardship of the Houston Ship Channel, and as its local sponsor, we're working very closely with the Army Corps of Engineers to do just that. The Army Corps of Engineers, at our request, is undertaking a major study to identify improvements to the channel. These improvements will likely include widening the channel to accommodate ships that become larger and larger, possibly deepen the channel for the same reason, and this would allow safe navigation of two-way traffic in our channel for ever-growing container vessels. The study is examining where the bends in the channel can be modified to benefit navigation, and it will also identify areas of the channel that are further inland that probably need additional depth to better accommodate our industry's needs. Although we're focused on what needs to be done to recover from the storm, critically important. Got to do that right away. It's equally as important, we believe, that our recovery do more than that. So the impacts of Harvey remind us what we have in the Houston Ship Channel and why it's so important to us and to the nation. So not only are we looking at trying to recover from the impacts of the storm and to bring the channel back to what it was before the storm, but we believe that at the same time, we should encourage the improvements to the channel that will take us into the future and provide more resilience for other impacts. In other words, we believe that instead of just returning the channel to its pre-storm depth and width, and in order to enhance efficiency and resiliency, we will be asking the Trump administration, Congress, and the Army Corps of Engineers to build in plans during this recovery effort that will include a deeper and a wider channel for ever-growing demand. Now, we've been very fortunate in the past to have the vision of leaders in the last century that brought us the Houston Ship Channel that truly has been the heartbeat of our region. It's made us a leader in national maritime and international maritime commerce. So we're focused not only on addressing the immediate storm impacts, but also on the future of the channel and opportunities to make it better. I want to give a special thank you to Roger Guenther, who has been thinking about these kinds of things since he took over as our CEO in January of 2014. He thinks about it every day, and the commission and staff are very focused on the ways that we can enhance this channel for future commerce. Now, we all know that maintaining the channel is also very crucial to the channel's resiliency for what we have in our current commerce. Through a study conducted by the Texas Transportation Institute, it was determined that a loss of 1 foot of draft in our channel cost the U.S. economy as much as $281 million per year. So consider what a loss of 10 feet of draft, and I showed you that silting from those former slides. Think about the impact of that to our national economy. And looking at the impact on an individual container ship, it's as much as $1 million in lost revenue per ship for that loss in draft. Now, of course, we value our partnerships, and the federal government is a very critical partner for us in so many ways. Army Corps of Engineers, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, United States Coast Guard. We are engaged in constant communication with our leadership in Washington, not only with the Army Corps of Engineers, Coast Guard, and Customs and Border Protection, but also with our congressional leaders, who we are very thankful for their advocacy and their help. And of course, the White House to highlight the importance of the Port of Houston and the return on investment on the federal dollars that are invested in improvements to our channel. We're very lucky to have strong bipartisan support from our local congressional delegation. All of them, whether Republican or Democrat, House or Senate, can recite statistics about our importance to our national economy. and they work very diligently to advocate on our behalf. And I thank them as often as I can for all that they do for us. But it's challenging. With limited federal dollars, all of us are at work to make sure that tax money is spent where it will do the most good. And the Houston Ship Channel, of course, I believe is a very worthwhile investment. We continue to try to secure more harbor maintenance trust fund money for the maintenance of our channel. We collect from our users around $100 million a year in harbor maintenance tax. That gets deposited in the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund, which is supposed to go for harbor maintenance. Unfortunately, those funds are still appropriated for uses other than harbor maintenance. And although $100 million is collected from our users, and although we need $50 to $60 million just to maintain our channel at its authorized depth and width, we only get back $30 to $40 million. So we have a constant deficit that creates a backlog of around $80 million in dredging needs at any given time, which of course translates to our channel is not ever at its authorized depth and width. Congress has made some improvements, and we have worked very closely with them to try to get that accomplished, but more improvement is needed. Looking at transportation more broadly, the federal government spends $2 billion each year on our road network, very important. It's clearly important to have this effective roadway system to get freight in and out of our system. It's also vitally important that we have a fully funded maritime transportation system, so critical to our local and national economies. So aside from storm resiliency, a deeper and wider channel is also important to maintain safe two-way navigation in our channel as vessels get larger and larger, especially after the improvements to the Panama Canal. This is a major piece of the Army Corps of Engineers study about enhancing our channel. And of course, it doesn't require a hurricane to silt our channel to an extent that navigation can be impacted. We've also had significant silting from frequent heavy rain events, such as the Memorial Day flood in 2015, the Tax Day flood in 2016. Again, this underscores the importance of federal harbor maintenance funds for effectively dredging our channel continuously, and the importance of deepening and widening our channel now as part of our recovery to assure that we're more resilient for these weather events moving forward. All of us together, and I'm talking about everybody in this room, we make up one of the most amazing and dynamic ports in the nation. Citing its centuries worth of vital energy and transportation infrastructure, as well as its ongoing importance to the economy, Colliers International 3 years ago dubbed us the nation's irreplaceable port. We don't take that for granted. A port like ours requires vision, dedication, and partnership every day. And if anyone beyond our region needed a reminder of the importance of our port and our ship channel, Harvey certainly underscored what can happen if this channel is not appropriately preserved. So in summary, although we're open for business and commerce is flowing in the channel, we need to repair the damage, and we also at the same time need to build a better and more resilient channel that is deeper and wider to assure that we're ready for the future. We need you, everyone in this room, to be an advocate with us so that we can carry this very critical message to Washington and to the leadership that can help support us in this effort to secure more federal funding for the enhancement and recovery of our channel. So everyone, let's continue working together in partnership and grow and protect the Houston Ship Channel for now and for generations to come. Thank you so much.